Hello, friends, and welcome back to Software Engineering Tales. Today, I talk with Lindsay Kloepping, the head of product management in FreePillar. We cover quite a lot in this episode. What is product management? How do you become a product manager? And what are some key responsibilities of product manager? We'll also cover Lindsay's journey into the field, transferring from finance to product management, and we will tap into some mistakes and lessons learned that she made along the way, as everyone else. Before we get to it, don't forget, if you like the content, if you like the conversations, hit subscribe, leave me a comment, leave me a review. I will really appreciate it. Thank you, and let's get to it. Enjoy. Hello, Lindsay. Welcome to Software Engineering Tales. I think you are actually the first product management person I have on air, so welcome.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm so excited for this conversation.
How would you explain what is product management to people that didn't get involved in software engineering at all?
That's a good question. So, product management sits at the intersection of customer needs, the business needs, and the technology. And what product managers are trying to do is build a product that solves a need for users that the users are willing to pay for, that creates value for the organization that's building it, that is also technically feasible. So basically, we're trying to connect all of the dots and then build a path forward for organizations, for development teams and software engineers to kind of follow along so that we can build, value generating products for our organizations.
But in the beginning, it was like there was like a bunch of engineers, building a product, probably directly with the client. So when or how did the need for this appears?
Product management actually goes back into the like 1950s or 40s.
Oh,
I don't remember the actual day. So keep in mind, product management, we have physical products in the world, right? We have these guys. We have it actually started back in the 50s or 40s with Procter and Gamble. So Procter and
okay.
Gamble is a consumer goods manufacturing organization, right? And so they were called the marketing men, and they were the people that went out into the world to see how people use the products from P&G, and what are their challenges, what are the things that they love, and so forth. It was a marketing function at first. Um, and then they were the ones who brought the information back to the designers, back to the folks inside, and helped improve the products and grow the products. And so then over the evolution, like we've had physical products in the world for so long. When digital products came into play in, when the interwebs first started up, the same thing, the same type of need existed. The need to talk to customers, the need to understand the problems that we're solving, the need to, put a solution in front of somebody. And software engineers can absolutely do that. And they still do today. A lot of folks in startups, it's a bunch of, tech guys that decided to go solve a problem, but they're still solving a problem. When it started to bifurcate, I think, is when you realize how much work there is in getting in front of the customer and talking to them and doing all of those things that stood in the way of writing code and moving the product forward. And so the roles started to bifurcate a little bit more in product management. Digital product management rose, and now you see us as our own thing. We're
Yeah.
still, I mean, digital product management is still fairly young in the scheme of things. And there's still a lot of confusion about what does a product manager do in the world. And someone's like, oh, you're a project manager. No, I'm not a project manager. I'm a product manager. They're very different things. But even today, I still get that. And they're like, oh, so yeah, you like manage the schedule and the budgets and stuff. Like, no, I do a lot more than that.
Uh, okay, so what's the key difference? Because you
Seem-
you you hear about project managers a lot, and so
Mhm.
what's the key difference between project manager and product manager?
Yeah, so project manager is kind of, and I wrote an entire thing on this, so I should have a better answer. They're managing things like resources and timelines and budgets and making sure that the train's all moving in the right direction and continues to move. So they're the ones that are checking in with all of the different functions inside of a product development organization: software engineering, product management, UX, marketing, customer support, sales, making sure that everybody's moving along on their track. And so they're managing projects, scope, not scope, schedule, budget, resources.
Yeah.
Product managers are focused purely on the product that we're building. There's a little bit of project management in our jobs, but we're more focused on creating value for the organization through the software that we build. Project managers are not building software. They may be facilitating, they may be helping keep track of all of the things that are going, but they're not the ones building the strategy, like setting the product vision, talking to the customers and understanding what the problem is and what we're trying to solve. And I say this as a recovering PMP. I was a project manager at one point in my life, and I actually shifted into product management instead.
I think it involves a lot of, speaking with customers and taking the requirements for the software, right? And I
Mhm.
actually I actually read this study from, I think it was Deloitte. It's about 2 years ago, or 2 years old, and they stated that basically over 60% of defects in the final software had a root cause in the requirements gone wrong. You know, is that something that you could sign under, that it's quite high percentage of these defects have a root cause in like the customer requirements, or the requirements got wrong, and what can we do about that to get better?
Yeah, and they're right. So, and I don't want to say it's a high percentage because it's kind of vary based on team and based on situation, but it is one of the top 5 reasons that we have defects in the system. And funny enough, I was actually with a client just recently trying to understand what was the root of their quality issue. They had a quality issue coming out the other side, and asked us to come in and help them understand what's driving that quality issue. Unfortunately for them, it wasn't just one thing, right? Driving the quality issue is a number of different things, but one of them was the requirements that were going into the system. And I usually refer to like the product development process as a machine or a system. So you like put something in one side of it, it moves its way through, and then something spits out the other side. I don't know if that's great or not. But the requirements coming in, if they're not well understood, so there's 2 problems with it. If they're not well understood and you're sending stories through that lack detail, that lack any concept of like, why are we building this to give the engineer something to bite on? That causes one issue. But then the other issue is we didn't understand the need from the customer well enough. And so we write stories that we think are the right things, but
Yeah.
we haven't done the work on the front side to determine that whether that's the right thing or not. Too many times I see customers like, well, I know my customer. I don't need to talk to them. I know what they need. Just write it this way. And then when we take it out to the customer and we show them what we've built, they're like, not quite, So those are the 2 big kind of when it comes to the requirements not being right, those are the 2 big drivers. And what can we do about it? Well, we can get out there and talk to our customers.
Yeah.
We can get out there and do the work. Having a product person, whether it's a product manager, a business analyst, which does in some cases fall into the product world, or the product owners, we can talk about product owners in a minute. Um, somebody that is responsible for taking the information from the world, turning it into accurate stories of requirements to be fed um, into our development team. So that's one big way to do it. Make sure you have someone that is dedicated to doing that. And then 2 is actually getting out there and talking to them. Talk to our customers. Our user researchers. We have UX guys here that are awesome at getting out there and really understanding what are the pain points of our users. What are the pain points and challenges? What are the delighters? Like, what do they love? What makes them happy? And being able to shape requirements that help solve their most sticky issues in a way that they're going to want to buy it and they're going to want to love it. So I think those are probably the key ways of addressing at least that element of quality issue.
Yeah.
There's lots more as we go through that it talks about, like, breaking down silos. So it's not a throw it over the wall and hope what comes out the other side is right. So when we write a story, when we put a requirement together, we should be working with the development team so closely so that they understand it. They understand the context behind it. Why are we doing this? What's the broader picture so that they understand how these pieces fit together so that they can make good decisions about how to build something.
Yeah.
I give you the what and the why. You, as developers, give me the how.
Yeah.
And if I step into your world and start telling you how to do it, you can kick me back out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. So it's really about, getting this feedback loop right, if I'm
Yes.
correct, with the customer and through as little number of people as possible, I would say. Because if it's like, some business representative is talking with customer, and then this business representative is talking with product manager, and product manager is talking with product owner, and then it gets to the devs, it's sometimes something totally different. So
It's the game of telephone. It is.
yeah,
And you have to be really careful not to play that game. As you're right, you do want to kind of move it as close as you can to the team, but recognize that there is going to be, you've got sales and customer support and so
yeah,
forth that are giving you their interpretation, but it is on you as a product person to go out and validate that interpretation with the actual people. I would much rather talk to the customer directly than to take feedback from those around me. Although sometimes that's all we get.
yeah,
And so we do our best to do that. And there are other places along the process that we can inject users to validate what we're doing. We can show them designs. We can include them in beta testing. We can include them a lot of different places along the way to, again, try to catch misses on the requirement side.
yeah. So what I would like to hear is how you got into this, product management business in the first place. Kind of what was your career journey? Because everyone's different, and it's often very inspiring to hear about different people's career journey.
Yeah, every product manager's career is not a straight line. Every product manager of my generation, like now there are some younger ones that have gone straight into product management, but most of us started somewhere else in the world. I started in finance. I was a mortgage broker.
Okay.
Yeah,
Not mortgage
not what I
broker.
wanted to
I
be doing.
sold, yeah, I sold investment funds, but yeah, I started in finance too.
Yeah, it was funny because I came out of school at a time when the job market was crap. Like there was not really a whole lot, and not stupidly, I moved across the country to a state that I didn't know anything about, because I wanted to get away and try something different. But I didn't have a job when I got there, so I had to take whatever I got. And it happened to be I got a job as a mortgage broker's assistant in a large bank, which was great. It was actually really it was a great time to be a mortgage broker's assistant. Mortgage rates were really low. People were just like refinancing left and right. So it was great. But I had a degree in technology. So at some point I wanted to get back into tech. And so my roommate at the time worked for a startup. And he's like, I need a customer support rep. And I'm like, I can do customer support. That's not hard. Um, I've been doing it at the bank anyway, so why not? And so I jumped into technical customer support, supporting an email marketing platform. I was the only one. Um, we were a startup. We were about 13 people at the time, and it was amazing and crazy and challenging and fun all at the same time. Like as a startup, it's all hands on deck. You're trying everything. But at some point, I got tired of getting yelled at by the
Yeah,
customers, like, because I would be the one who would get handed whatever. I mean, you would think email was like people were super sensitive about their emails going out. Um, but I got tired of getting yelled at. So one day, after a particular customer had yelled at me 3 or 4 times, I turned around to the engineer behind me because he literally sat right behind me. And I was like, can you walk through this with me? This is dumb. Like, why is this working like this? Why can't we fix this? And told him about what was happening. And he was like, oh, okay, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And he put a fix in place. And like, huh, that's pretty cool. And so that continued to happen. I didn't know what product management was at the time. I had no idea, like never been introduced to it. I was very much in my customer support world. I built an entire customer support organization for this company. 24/7 round the clock, follow the sun type support team. And then at one point I moved back and I couldn't continue doing that. So I shifted into project management, which then gave me access to all the product managers in the organization at that time. And I'm like, that looks kind of cool. So I started doing product management for them. Again, still not really understanding what it was, but I was a SME. And so I'm like, I know the product, I know the customers really well. This is easy. And then when I got laid off from them, I moved into product ownership, Scrum product ownership. So at this company, I learned Scrum when Scrum first came out. And we all looked at each other going, oh my God, this is going to suck because the whole idea of going from waterfall to Scrum, like planning everything up front, mitigating every risk, and just executing versus not knowing what your end goal is and just kind of having to iterate through it. Super huge jump. But we all were trained and we all learned and we were all trying to figure it out. Then I moved into product ownership with a company that had been doing Scrum for a while, and it was awesome. Like this is how it's supposed to work. Like we were all like a huge team. Like we worked together so well. And I really, really loved working in that group. But then again, I got laid off. I got to keep working my way through. And then
Recurring theme.
I I landed like a sales engineering position at some point, which was really neat. I like solving problems, so sales engineering was cool. Um, and then after my boss called me and told me that they had run out of money for payroll, and I was on the hunt again. I know. I have really bad luck when it comes to getting laid off. Um, then I landed at Three Pillar, and
Yeah.
I've been here 11 years. And I started here as a first level product manager. I worked my way up to a senior, and then at one point they asked me to take over the solutions team. So I ran the solutions team for a while, kind of straddling sales and product, which was really cool. I still
Yeah.
do that, and I love it. And then about 4.5 years ago, they asked me to take over the product team and grow the product practice for Three Pillars. So we started as a motley crew of like 12, I think. And at our peak a year and a half ago, we were 70.
Oh,
So we were in every delivery center that Three Pillar had at the time. And so it's been quite a journey to get there and a lot of learning. And that's where I am today. So still running the practice, doing a lot of consulting for clients. So,
and when you mentioned learning, I noticed also that you got on the side of your normal job and normal, responsibilities, you got into a coaching. Is that
yeah.
correct term?
Yes. So, I mean, if you stay with me long enough, you know that I don't sit still very well. I have a lot of different interests. I like to do a lot of different things. I'm a maker, I'm a creator, and I'm a helper. And so at some point in the last 4 or 5 years, I actually reached outside of Three Pillar and started mentoring other product people, mainly just to stay connected to the world because I felt it had been like 8 years at that point at Three Pillar.
Yeah.
And I started to feel very kind of closed in. So I wanted to reach out to the rest of the world. And so I started mentoring through ADP List and loved it. Like it was one of the best ways to end my week. I would put everything on like on a Friday afternoon. Um, because sitting down and talking with other product people, helping them work through their challenges, helping them move forward in their careers was super rewarding and just a really great way to end my week. So when an opportunity to take a coaching course kind of jumped at me, I'm like, yeah, let's do this. And so I took an intensive like 12-week coaching course, learning the difference between therapy, mentoring, and coaching, which there are definite differences between
Yeah.
them. But stretching myself to learn coaching and to be present and to, there's all these different techniques you have to learn, which was just so much fun. And so I figured I do a lot of this anyways. Like as a product leader sitting kind of at a senior director, type role, I don't do a lot of execution based product management anymore. It's really all about building the team, driving the team, supporting the vision. And so coaching and mentoring is a big piece of that. So I figured, well, why not formalize it? Why not? Because it's something I really enjoy doing. So yeah, I do. I coach kind of on the sides, on the edges
Yeah,
as well. I'd love to have more time for it, but I have a full time job.
yeah.
So it fits in the edges.
It's cool that you got into it because yeah, in the end, software engineering like a whole is a business of people, and people build
Mhm.
software. So working with people is a really great skill, I think, in this area in the general.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For me, it's all about the humans that we work with. Like, the humans are the key piece of our value chain. Like, inside of especially inside of 3 pillar or inside of services-based organizations, the humans that are doing the work are the keys in the value chain. And so keeping them supported, keeping them kind of front of mind, even while business runs around you. And business can be hard sometimes. And so making sure that we support the humans that are doing the work, because if you support them in a way that they do their best work, the rest of it falls into place, generally.
yeah, yeah. What would you say that is the biggest issue of like today's, making of software? What is the biggest bottleneck in the industry?
Oh boy, there's not a single good answer for that. The single biggest bottleneck. So some of the challenges start, and again, this is from a product perspective. So this
Yeah,
is not ubiquitous, but from a product perspective, especially in building software, is empowering the people that are in the software value chain to do the jobs that they were hired to do, and giving them the space to go do the research, to set the vision, to work with the teams and do the right things. And it might just be because of the work that I do in consulting, because a lot of times I'm coming in to right the ship. But I see a lot of times where the executive teams around these people um, either are not clear in their communication about what they want, like the vision of the company, the vision of where they want to go, or they are highly opinionated about how things are done and making the people that they hired to do the job, making their job so much harder to get it done. So having broad support, kind of like um, Scott Barho always talked about horizontal integration, making sure that all of the people are on board with the direction that you're heading as an organization. So from all the C levels and the Vs, and making sure everybody understands where we're going and we're all marching the same direction. Because too many times in companies, you get people silos just heading off in their own ways. And it makes it really hard sometimes to get your job done, especially when priorities change on the regular, teams change on the regular, like you're flipping people in and out because of
yeah,
various projects that are going on. There's no stability. And there's not a lot of patience. Um, actually, just I wrote an article about product leaders' first 90 days, because I've had an experience with a number of different product leaders where 90 days is too long for a new product leader to show any kind of value. There's not a lot of patience in the system today, because of the economy, because of what's going on. There's not a lot of patience to get to value. So when you might have had 90 days to figure your stuff out, you're down to 30 before you have to
oh,
show a remarkable plan and start executing against that plan. So I think that's some of the biggest challenges right now. There's not a lot of patience in the system. There's a lot of change. With AI, there's a lot of uncertainty. It's like, well, what's AI going to do? What am I supposed to do with it? Um, and so it just makes it challenging for the teams to focus on what they're doing, because leadership is not focused because they're trying to figure out what's going on.
it just got me to thinking like today. I think it's really hard for like junior software engineers to get into the industry. Does that same apply to like product management? I would say so, right?
It does. It is raw. And the market right now in particular is just tough for everybody. But I talk to so many people that want to get into product, but many companies aren't hiring junior levels. They're just really not. Like, you need product is one of those hires. It's not like engineers where you have like 6 of them. You get one product person, maybe
Yeah,
2. And so that hire has to be the person that's going to be able to do it and carry it. And not a lot of juniors are there, right? I mean, we were all juniors at one point, we were all learning. You don't often have the capacity to bring a junior along with you. So it is really hard for people with like sub 1 or even 1 to 2 years of experience to get into product. I usually tell them shoot for product ownership roles, like backlog manager type product ownership roles where you're writing stories, where you're managing backlogs, keeping priorities, doing requirements. That tends to be a little bit easier to get into than a product manager, like a mid-level product manager. Um, the other challenge is industry right now, product is looking for industry specifics. Like when they're hiring
Yeah,
you, they want you to have done something in the industry that they're in. And many of these juniors have no industry experience at all. So it's just
yeah.
really, really tough for them to get in the door. Um,
So it's basically easier when you are like a professional from some industry, let's say automotive, and you have few years of you basically understand what's the game about, and then you want to go get into the product management. It's maybe more valuable than if you are like generalist after school who doesn't have
mhm.
some other experience. Would you say that is correct?
It's
Or
both the product experience and the industry
yeah,
experience. So you have to product manager roles now require 2 to 5 years of demonstrable product experience. Having built roadmaps, having because again, you get 1 to 2 product people in a team in small to mid-sized companies. Like enterprises, it's a little bit different, but even in enterprises, it's still hard to get into. But like in small to mid-sized companies, you don't get a whole bevy of product people generally. And so the people that they hire are very key strategic hires. And so they want you to have experience in building and they want you to have experience in the industry, which wasn't always the case. Like it's kind of ebbed and flowed in the last 10 years or so. Like at one point, generalists were awesome. Like I would hire a builder any day and I will teach them the subject matter expertise. And I still do that. With three pillar, I will hire a builder over anybody else and I will teach them the subject matter because of what we do. Um, but product companies are looking for people who are builders with experience and they
yeah,
understand the industry. And so getting people, and if you ever want to switch industries, right now it's tough because again they're looking for specifics. I've talked to a number of folks that are like they got to the final two on their interview process and they were the ones that lost out because they didn't have direct industry experience and the other person did. So you could have
yeah.
blown them out of the water in every other way, but they were missing that one factor and that was enough for them to pick somebody else. And it's tough because if you want to switch industries, good luck.
Yeah.
At least right now. Like it'll change. It'll ebb again and or it'll flow again and it'll change.
It's
It's just
it's
the market we're in right now is really tough.
it will just turn over, but it will take some time, probably. Okay, so let's turn the page. I shared with you upfront two questions that I ask every of my guests, and the
Mm.
first one is to share some lesson learned story, what you did wrong along the way, and how you learned from that.
Oh god. How do I pick just one thing
No,
that I have done
no,
wrong? I've done so
nothing.
much wrong.
Yeah, nothing sensitive. You don't want to get into
No.
troubles, but yeah,
No. I think the one of the key aspects of a product manager is being willing to be wrong. I see a lot of product managers, they'll walk in and think that they know everything and that no one can tell them nothing, and that's complete hooey. You are always learning, you will always mess up. You will always and it's how you fix yourself after you mess up. So one of my biggest ones, I think one of the most impactful ones for me was earlier in my career at Three Pillar. I was on a project that was all about microservices and breaking up a monolith, which at the time I had zero experience with. I had no idea. Like I'm learning as I go here. Like, and I've never broken up a monolith in my life. I don't know how to write a backlog around that. I don't even know what we need to do to break it up. And I'm leaning on my engineers or my architect, who was a contractor at the time. We just we didn't make progress. And the client got mad. And the client got in there and said, "We have been at this for 6 weeks and you guys haven't done anything and you don't have a plan." And I messed it up. And so my boss at the time brought pulled me into the office and said, "Hey, I'm going to give you so and so to help you out." Um, and what happened was that wasn't they were giving me somebody to help me out. They were giving me somebody to replace me and take me off the project. And they weren't super straightforward about that. And so it was really upsetting to me. Um, and so I didn't storm out of the office, but I walked out of the office in tears. And
Yeah.
one of our more rough leaders pulled me into his. I walked past his office and he stuck his head out. And he's like, "Hey, you, get in here." Pulls me into his office because I'm crying and I'm like crying in front of this big rough leader. I'm like, "Oh my god, this is like so terrible." Um, and he was like, "Tell me what happened," and I told him, and he was like, "Got it. So you effed up. You screwed up." I'm like, "I think I did." And he was like, "Cool, happens." He was like, "You didn't drop a database." It's like, "You didn't shut down somebody's software," right? He was like, "You messed up. Yeah, that's right." He was like, "But what you do from here on out is what matters." And so he was like, "You can walk out of here and quit and wallow in your sorrows, or you can walk out of here, take that lesson, and never do it again." And so I think I still like obviously I can still tell the story. That was like 8 years, 9 years ago. 10 maybe. I was still super freshy at Three Pillar. Um, but I messed up, and I can't even tell you the details of how I messed up other than I just didn't know what I was doing. And I didn't progress with the customer fast enough. But it still sticks with me today. Like I will never do that again. Like I didn't reach out for help. I could have reached out and asked for more help on that one, and I didn't. I was too prideful to do it. I'm like, "I can do this. I can figure this out." That's the last day that I ever said that to myself, by the way. Like, there's always something to learn. So I think that was probably my biggest mess up. Um, there have been lots of others along the way. We mess up all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, not getting stuff done at time, making the wrong decision. As long as we always say this, as long as the decision is reversible and it's not like permanent, then we can be a little more relaxed about it. Like if the decision's not reversible, we take a little more time to kind of figure out what we're doing. But um so yeah, I think that was probably my biggest oopsie. Fortunately, I've not had anything like dropping a database or missing a launch or anything like that. We're pretty diligent, but it
Yeah.
still sticks with me.
Yeah. Nothing like making a few $1 million worth of mistake in the software, right?
I know, right? I not lose $1 million worth of stuff, did not get us sued. There's a lot of those things that could absolutely happen. Um, but I will be forever stuck with that impactful leader and, like, what he said to me because I can still hear him in my head. Because he was like and then, he's like, "You done fucked up." I'm like, "Oh, okay." First of all, I had never had a leader, like, throw the F-bomb at me.
Yeah.
But anyways, so yeah,
Yeah.
that's my business story, and
That's
it wasn't
cool.
millions of dollars, so that's good.
Yeah. That's good. I think it's always about the balance, right? When, you want to prove yourself, you want to make something on your own, and you
Mhm.
want to show others that you are capable of something, but
Yep.
then there are situations where you really need and should have asked for help, and it's about
Right.
finding the right balance. And I think in your area it's a bit harder than in mine, because for me it's like if you get stuck for more than 4 hours, cry for help. But in
Yeah.
your area, it's a little bit more like the lines are not well defined.
You have to be willing to ask for help, and I think that's something that I tell all of my people. It's like we're always learning. Like even me, I've been at this for 20 plus years. I'm still learning something every single day. And there are more than enough people around you willing to help and support you. Especially Three Pillar, we have our practices and they're awesome because you can reach out into them and ask for help. And there's like however many other people in there. They're like, "Yeah, sure. Let's take 5 minutes and walk through it." But you have to ask for help. You have to raise your hand and say, and like be humble enough to say, "I don't know what I'm doing, but I want to learn."
Yeah,
And I think that's really important.
yeah, but I think for this behavior, the important is also the culture around that, suggests this behavior and creates
Yeah.
like a safe space. And I think this is like recurring topic in a lot of conversations that I have with software engineers and others, to like really
Hmm.
create this no blame culture and basically encourage people to ask stupid questions or ask for help when you feel like stupid. Oh, I really don't know how to do this basic thing and I'm stuck for 2 hours. And then other software engineer came in and he's like, okay, here's typo, but but yeah.
Oh, I hate ones.
Yeah.
But no, but that's a great point though, right? So psychological safety is a huge part of this, and not every company has psychological safety. They don't create a safe space. And like if you had to ask about like what are some of the other challenges, it's like not every company is good at creating a safe space to learn, to grow, to mess up, right? And to move forward from that mess up. So it is incredibly important. The culture makes a huge difference. I know companies, and I've talked to product managers that are like, I mess up and I'm out, and they're terrified every day. Do you think they're doing their best work? They're not. They're not doing their best work. They're working in a place of fear that does not allow them to do their best work. So leaders that are listening, creating a safe space, creating a psychologically safe space for people to grow and to learn and to do their work without having to be afraid of repercussions. Now, obviously, if you lose $1 million worth of money because of some mess up, or you were the poor guy on the latest mess up that took down all the Microsoft
Yeah.
machines, the CloudStrike thing, right? Okay, so again, there's limits, but generally, creating a place where people can do their best work is hard, and it requires some level of psychological safety.
So just before we wrap this session up, my last question: if you could tell one advice, one take-home message to our listeners and watchers, what it would be, the most important thing to get back home with them.
Always be learning. I think for my career progression and so many career progressions that I've seen of others, those with a growth mindset that are always learning, that always want, that thirst for more knowledge, are the ones that are the happiest and that move the furthest and do the best. So you are not the smartest. 9.5 times out of 10, you are not the smartest person in the room. There are times where you might be, but most of the time, you're not the smartest person in the room. And there's always something for you to learn from the people around you. And so I think if you keep that mindset, which is typical growth mindset, in play, there's no limit to what you can do. Um, but you have to embrace that.
Thank you. It was a really great chat, and thank you for joining us here in Software
Yeah.
Engineering Tales. And see you around, I guess, Lindsay.
Yeah, no, I'll see you. I'm gonna see you on your LinkedIn thing here in a couple of weeks when you do the presentation. I'm sending my whole team there. So
Yeah, cool. All right.
thank you for making me
Cheers.
get ready on a
Bye.
Friday morning.